Hello everyone, my name's Tania Burchardt. I am an associate professor in the Department of Social Policy, and I also work in the Centre for Analysis of Social Exclusion at the London School of Economics. And the research I'm going to be talking about today is joint work with Polina Obolenskaya. So the research I want to talk to you about today is from a 3-year programme funded by the Nuffield Foundation on social policies and distributional outcomes in a changing Britain. And what we've been doing is looking across different areas of the welfare state and public services to see how they've changed and to see who the winners and losers are from the way in which we organise our social protection here in England. We've been particularly focusing on the eve of the pandemic. What was the situation just before the COVID-19 crisis hit? The area I'm going to talk about today is adult social care. Now, unlike its much more familiar cousin, the health service, not everyone is actually sure what adult social care is. So let me start by just giving you a sense of what we mean by adult social care. This is support for people who need help with activities of daily living. What I mean by that is, for example, help getting upstairs, help getting dressed, help remembering to take medications. Those kinds of assistance that are really important for people's quality of life and independence. Adult social care is partly organised through publicly funded care, arranged by local authorities in most cases. And that is both means tested, that means you have to have a low income in order to qualify, and needs tested. That means you need to be quite significantly disabled or need a lot of help before you are eligible for publicly funded care. That's again unlike the health service, where of course everybody who has a need for healthcare can access it free at the point of use. Publicly funded social care is complemented by a small private care market and an enormous army of unpaid family carers who provide support to their family members. But the combination of these three things leave gaps, and what we've been focusing on is the inequalities in the gaps that are left. Inequalities between men and women, between older and younger people, between people living in more and less deprived areas, and between different ethnic groups. And I want to focus on two particular aspects of those inequalities now. The first inequality is inequalities in access to the help that you need. And what we've found is that older women are particularly unlikely to receive the help that they need from a combination of different sources. So in fact, half of women aged 80 or above who have a need for help with at least one activity of daily living don't receive the help that they need. And that compares to 1 in 6 men aged 65 to 69. So a much higher proportion of older women than younger men who have unmet needs of this kind. There's also a very steep gradient in unmet need by where you live. So if we look at all of the local areas across England and divide them into fifths according to the intensity of deprivation in the area, people living in the highest deprived fifth of local areas, 2 out of 5 of them who have a need for care are not getting their needs met. And that's twice the proportion of people in the least deprived areas in England. So there's a very steep social gradient in unmet need for support. The second area I wanted to talk about is in relation to the quality of care for those who are lucky enough, fortunate enough to actually receive care. And here I'm talking about publicly funded social care. So there is a social care users survey, and about 2/3, in fact 64%, of people overall say that they're satisfied with the care services that they receive. But when we dig down a little bit and look at the inequalities in the satisfaction with the services, which can be taken as a measure of the quality of services that people are receiving, we find again that women, people aged 75 or above, are much less likely to feel satisfied with the care that they're receiving. The biggest, starkest differences, however, are by ethnicity. So Black and Black British care service users are 9 percentage points less likely than the average to feel satisfied with the services that they receive. And Asian and Asian British care users are 10 percentage points less satisfied than the average. So overall, both in terms of access and in terms of quality, we see inequalities by age, by gender, by deprivation of the area that you live in, and by ethnicity. One of the things about social care is that it's been referred to as the forgotten front line. So although it is of crucial importance in terms of supporting people to continue to live in their own homes for as long as is possible, supporting disabled people's independence, supporting quality of life, it gets much less attention than its much bigger counterpart in the health service. During the COVID crisis, you may have come across the phrase "a crisis in social care," and indeed some of the weaknesses in social care have been very much highlighted by the experience of the COVID pandemic. But actually some of the issues long predate the pandemic, and the lack of recognition of the flaws in our current social protection of this form, I think, go very deep indeed. So I was wanting to really shine a light on this somewhat neglected area of our public services, and in particular to look at the inequalities that are often hidden in the averages when we look at the performance of social care. The people who I most hope will benefit from this research ultimately are the people with care needs and the people that support them, their family, friends and carers. Because there are very important needs that are going unmet here. Unfortunately, there are rather few organisations that represent care users, although there are some very important organisations, disabled people's rights organisations, Age UK, Carers UK, that do campaign around these issues. And I hope that those organisations will indeed be able to take forward some of the findings from this research in their own advocacy and campaigning work. At the level of influencing policy, we've already been in touch with the Department of Health and Social Care, who are talking to us about how to integrate our findings in some of their work. So that's very positive indeed. Social care is organised principally at local authority level, so we also want to engage with directors of social services. And then of course there are the regulators and inspectors, organisations like the Social Care Institute for Excellence, the Care Quality Commission that inspects and regulates social care services, and the Equality and Human Rights Commission, who have investigated social care on a number of occasions, for whom I think these findings on inequalities within social care will be of particular importance.